You need to leave. Now, the order lands before any greeting, before names, before explanation. A fork pauses mid-air. A child cup rattles once. What did we do? Comes out measured, correct, and on time. I've had complaints. That is all. No description. No clarification. Stand up. Let's go. The booth stays seated. Plates are warm. Drinks sweat onto laminated wood. It is 12:30 p.m. The second hand on the wall clock moves past the red number twice. What did we do? The question is repeated. Slower. Aimed upward. It asks for a fact. I've had complaints. The voice stays level. The sentence ends there. A chair leg presses lightly against the edge of the booth. The pressure comes through denim. A shoe blocks the narrow path to the aisle. The stance is casual. Practiced. And close enough to cut the light from the window. The man at the booth is Daniel Harris. His shoulders stay square to the table. Beside him, Lauren Harris keeps both hands flat. Palms down. Fingers spread. Across from them, Evan Harris and Chloe Harris remain seated. Feet swinging under the table. The officer's name tag reads Ryan Cole. We just ordered. Lauren says, that's not relevant. The reply arrives immediately. Short. Closed. Evan drags a crayon line off the edge of a paper menu. The wax leaves a blue mark on the table. What specifically did we do? Daniel asks. I told you. Officer Cole says, complaints. 2 fingers tap the table once. Not hard. Not loud. The tap lands beside Chloe's plastic cup. The liquid inside trembles. The lid clicks. Let's not make this complicated. Daniel does not reach for the cup. He does not stand. We paid for our food, he says. Officer Cole shifts his weight. The movement closes the gap by half a step. His belt buckle lines up with the edge of the table and catches the light. You need to leave, he says. Right now. Daniel's hand lowers. A fork touches ceramic. The sound is small and final. His other hand rests on the back of the booth. Fingers spread. Not gripping. Who complained? The question is quiet. It is directed into the space between them. That's not your concern. Officer Cole leans in slightly. His voice stays even. Do you all understand English? There is a brief pause. Evan looks down at the menu. Chloe stops coloring. Yes. Lauren says. Officer Cole straightens. He reaches down, takes a napkin from the holder, and wipes the spot where his fingers tapped. He folds the napkin once, then again, and places it back between the salt and sugar packets. Aligned. The action takes time. Sir, Daniel says, can you tell us what law we broke? Officer Cole looks past the booth toward the counter, then back. I'm here at the request of the business, he says. You're causing a disturbance. Outside the window, a car passes. Inside, a server slows near the counter, then turns away. Officer Cole's foot shifts again. The shoe presses closer to the booth. The aisle narrows. Stand up, he says. Daniel slides his chair back an inch, enough to clear space for his legs. The motion stops there. I need to understand, Daniel says. You don't need to understand. The chest camera is visible now. Centered and steady, the indicator light is on. Facing the booth. Evan's sneaker taps the wood under the table once, then stills. We're not refusing, Daniel says. We're asking why. Officer Cole exhales through his nose. Brief. He looks down at the table, then back up. Leave voluntarily, he says, spacing each word. Or this becomes an arrest situation. The sentence sits over the plates and the folded napkin and the blue crayon mark that has not been wiped away. Daniel's hand tightens once on the back of the booth, then releases. Are you saying you'll arrest us if we stay? Lauren asks. Officer Cole does not answer the question. He adjusts his stance so the path remains blocked. "You are no longer customers," he says. "You're trespassing." Daniel looks at the plates. The food has cooled enough to dull the steam. He looks back up. "We're not leaving until we know why," he says. Officer Cole's tone hardens without getting louder. "This is your final warning." Chloe's cup tips slightly and rolls against the napkin holder. The lid holds. The sound stops. "You are not who you think you are," Officer Cole says. He does not move away. "Stand up. Now." Officer Ryan Cole does not step back. The aisle stays closed. His body blocks the shortest path to the door, close enough that the booth has to angle around him to move. The indicator light on his chest camera remains on. Time stretches without instruction. The table stays set. The plates are no longer steaming. Condensation from the glasses reaches the edge of the laminate and drips once onto the floor. Daniel Harris stays seated. His chair remains half an inch from the table. Neither in nor out. Lauren Harris keeps her hands where they are. Evan and Chloe do not swing their feet anymore. Officer Cole looks past the booth again, toward the counter. He does not signal. He does not speak. The pause holds. "We're still here," Daniel says. Officer Cole answers without looking at him. "You were told to leave." "I'm asking for clarification," Daniel says. Officer Cole shifts his stance so the body camera faces the booth squarely. The lens settles at chest height. The light remains steady. "Stand up," he says. No one stands. The officer's hand drops to his belt. Not gripping. Resting. The motion is small but visible. The distance between the buckle and the edge of the table is another inch. Lauren looks down at Chloe's cup. She slides it back from the edge of the table without lifting it. The lid clicks once and stops. Officer Cole exhales again. This is taking too long. He steps closer. Enough that the table edge touches his thigh. The booth has no room to move forward. "You're refusing a lawful order," he says. Daniel does not answer immediately. He looks at the napkin holder, at the folded napkin placed precisely between the salt and sugar. He looks back up. "We haven't been given a reason," he says. Officer Cole turns his head slightly. The camera catches the movement. "I don't have to explain myself." The words end there. He straightens, then angles his body to keep the aisle closed. The room around them shifts in small ways. A fork from another table stops scraping. A chair does not move when it normally would. A register drawer closes more softly than before. Officer Cole raises his voice just enough to carry. "You're trespassing." "I've explained that." Daniel remains seated. His posture does not change. "If the business wants us to leave," he says, "we'll leave." Officer Cole does not respond. He keeps his eyes on the booth. Seconds pass. His feet stay planted. His shoulders remain set. A door swings open behind him. The sound comes from the kitchen. Mark Reynolds steps into the dining area. He is wiping his hands on a towel as he walks. He stops when he sees the officer standing over the booth. "What's going on?" Reynolds asks. Officer Cole turns. The camera swings with him. "I'm handling a disturbance." Reynolds looks past the officer at the table. He takes in the plates. The children. The untouched food. "From who?" he asks. Officer Cole gestures toward the dining room with an open hand. "A customer complaint." Reynolds steps closer. The space between the officer and the booth narrows, then shifts. "I didn't ask for anyone removed," Reynolds says. "They're welcome here." Officer Cole's jaw tightens once. He shifts so the camera now frames Reynolds and the booth together. "Sir," he says, "I'm responding to a call for service." Reynolds moves another step forward. He places himself between the officer and the table, not touching either. "They're my customers," Reynolds says. "They've done nothing wrong." Officer Cole looks down briefly, then back up. "You're interfering." Reynolds does not move. "I'm telling you to leave my diner." The officer's hands tense at his sides. The camera records the moment without zoom or shake. Lauren lifts her phone from her purse. She holds it chest high, angled toward the exchange. "I'm recording," she says. Officer Cole turns his head toward her. "Put that away." "For what?" she asks. Reynolds steps half a step closer to the officer. The aisle opens fully now. Officer Cole looks between them. He holds the position for a second longer than necessary. Then he turns. The camera view shifts toward the door. Each step causes a slight bounce. The dining room comes back into frame as he moves away. He does not look back. The door closes behind him. The sound is flat. Finale. The indicator light remains on as he walks outside. The booth stays seated. The plates remain on the table. The folded napkin is still centered between the salt and sugar. No one speaks for several seconds. The record continues. Officer Ryan Cole reaches his patrol car. The body camera remains on. The indicator light stays steady as he opens the door, sits, and pulls it closed. The frame settles on the dashboard. The diner door is visible in the side mirror for a moment. Then traffic moves through the lane and replaces it. The upload happens later. At the end of the shift, the footage transfers to the department server without comment. The file is labeled by date, time, and call type. The confirmation is complete. The record exists. The written report follows. It states a response to a disturbance call at a local diner. It notes the situation was resolved without incident. It says the family left voluntarily after being informed of a complaint. The language is brief and complete. The report does not mention the owner. It does not mention the blocked aisle. It does not mention the folded napkin. 3 days later, Daniel Harris filed a complaint. He brings the date, the time, and the location written in a small notebook he keeps in his jacket. At the front desk, a clerk scans the form, stamps the receipt, and slides it back. "We'll look into it," the clerk says. A case number is written in the corner. Daniel repeats it once, then again, and leaves. The first reply arrives by email. The subject line contains the number. The body confirms receipt and lists no timeline. Daniel reads it at his kitchen table, then forwards it to an address he keeps for records. The message joins a folder labeled by month. Internal Affairs opens the file. The body camera footage is cued. The clip plays from the moment the officer enters the diner. The camera angle is stable. The audio is clear. The room on screen is quiet. An investigator pauses the video. "There's no disturbance here." The investigator says, "Playback resumes." The review expands. Prior complaints attached to the same name. Dates repeat. Call types align. The sequence forms through documents. A preservation notice is issued. The body camera file is duplicated. Access permissions are limited. Weeks pass. Daniel receives a letter requesting a statement. He responds in writing, attaching the case number and the timestamps he remembers. Another email follows with a calendar invite. The location is a municipal building. The subject line repeats the number. At the window, a badge taps a reader. The light turns red. Access cards stop working. A short statement appears on the department website, confirming an internal investigation. No details are provided. Counsel is retained. A civil complaint is filed naming the officer and the city. The allegations reference the footage by minute and second. Discovery begins. The same file is produced again. Unchanged. Additional recordings surface. Phone videos from the dining room appear online. The angles differ. The order of events does not. The aisle closes. The order repeats. The owner steps between. The officer turns away. A call comes in the afternoon. Daniel answers. "We're proceeding federally." The voice says, "You'll receive notice." Another email follows with a formal caption and a list of counts. The language is procedural. Dates and actions are enumerated. The file grows thicker. At trial, the footage plays on a courtroom screen. The perspective does not change. The jury watches from the officer's chest as distance closes and instructions repeat. The camera records position and sound. There is no narration. After deliberation, the foreperson stands. Guilty. The foreperson says. The verdict is entered. Sentencing follows the guidelines. The term is read into the record. The gavel strikes once. The transcript captures the sound. The civil case does not go to trial. The city settles. The number is read into the agreement. $1.8 million. The document lists reforms. Mandatory body camera activation for all calls. An independent review authority. Documentation requirements for removals. And audits tied to compliance. No apology is included. Daniel receives the notice by mail. The envelope is plain. The agreement is summarized in formal language. He places it in the same folder as the case number and the email confirmations. Back at the diner, the booth by the window remains. The table is wiped down. The blue crayon mark is gone. A sign near the counter states that all customers are welcome. The room returns to its usual pace. Orders are taken. Plates are set down. The body camera footage remains stored on the server. The file name does not change. The timestamps remain intact. The record stays available. This story is for people who recognize the phase when discretion is running, and the record has not yet taken over. It applies when questions repeat, and answers do not. It does not apply when personal safety requires leaving. If you've seen a situation like this, leave a comment. If this breakdown helped you understand how power moves before a record exists, share it, and subscribe to Power Abuse Stories for the next case. The record remains. Quiet justice.